instructed by Lieutenant Colonel David Wise, United States Army retired, and Sergeant First Class Jamie M. Brown, U.S. Army retired. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Right face. Forward. March. March time. March. Order. Colors. Sorry. Order. Colors. Right, pause.
I ask that you remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and I believe, Ms. Lewis, you have some things to add.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would respectfully request that on the information agenda for the first reading, or the second reading, I'm sorry, that we postpone everything except the policy 6220, operation of student nutrition services. Postpone the rest of those until December for time for reflection, please.
All right, so I would entertain the approval of the agenda with those changes.
So moved.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Superintendent's comments.
Good evening, parents, members of the community, board members, and teammates. November is the traditional time in the calendar when we pause to acknowledge our blessings and share our appreciation and gratitude. On a personal level, there could not be a more perfect time for the anniversary of my return to the school system that I love so much. In this season of Thanksgiving, it's appropriate for me to share my Thanksgiving and appreciation for the opportunity to serve in this incredible district. Over the course of the last year, my first year as your superintendent, I've learned much about the school system that I love. I've discovered that the foundational core values that undergirded the work of the school system decades ago when I was a student in this school system remain just as central to our work today as they did then. I've also learned that the school system is not the same as it was all those years ago, nor even when I was teaching in this school system. I'm proud of the changes the school system has made over the years because that means that the school system is dynamic and thoroughly committed to continuous improvement and to growing in our ability to serve the needs of students and families. I've encountered in my first year amazing teachers and staff members throughout our school system who are clearly dedicated to the work they do every single day and who are clearly making a difference. Board members, as you know, we had an incredible night last week as the Buncombe County Schools District Advisory Council meeting occurred at Irwin High School. Members of each of our 45 schools advisory councils came together to add their voice and work to our district strategic plan. Hearing from students, parents, staff members, elected leaders, and community partners is incredibly important to ensuring that we're meeting the needs of our students. I'm very appreciative to the over 200 people who gave of their precious time to help our school system continue to achieve greater heights. Please allow me to give a shout out to two of our schools. First, Black Mountain Primary School was recognized by the state of North Carolina as a top 10 ESEA distinguished school for their success closing the achievement gap between student groups for 2 or more consecutive years. This is outstanding, and an area we continue to focus on across our school system. I also want to recognize Fairview Elementary School that will be honored in Washington, D.C. later this month as a National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence. As we continue to see, we have much to be proud of across our school system. I'm excited about this evening's curriculum presentation. You may recall that in May, when I reported to the Board of Education about those things that I learned during my first 100 days, among the strengths that I reported were the students, the staff, the focus on the arts, and our literacy instruction. Tonight, we'll hear about the work of our teachers and students in our classrooms as we grow reading comprehension. We understand that reading is foundational to all learning. It is this work that creates the opportunity for the historic student academic success that we have witnessed this year. And so, as I celebrate my anniversary as your superintendent this week, again, please allow me to share my gratitude and thanksgiving for the opportunity to serve this amazing school system. We remain committed to supporting each and every student in our school system. To our team and to our board members, thank you for all that you do for the students, families, teachers, and staff of Buncombe County Schools. Madam Chair, this concludes my comments.
Thank you. This time on the agenda is time for good news, and I recognize Dr. Harris.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Jackson, and members of the board. For tonight's good news, we would like to recognize Dr. Jackson's one-year anniversary as superintendent. With energy and dedication, Dr. Jackson has immersed himself in our community, investing countless hours to understand the needs of our staff, students, and families. And of course, a special thanks to his wife, Renee, for supporting him on this journey. Whether he's attending staff and admin meetings or running with the cross-country team at 6 a.m. or enjoying an athletic event alongside screaming fans, Dr. Jackson's worked to forge strong connections in our community. This evening, we'd like to acknowledge the positive impact he's made on our community. So at this time, our board members are welcome to share their thoughts.
If we let Kim Clemens go first, we'll be here all night, but I'm going to let her go first.
Thank you for that feedback, but I don't listen to it. Dr. Jackson, I think I've shared a lot with you in the past almost year. You have been very receptive to feedback. You have just been a blessing, to take Mr. Elliott's word, a blessing to all of us, particularly the children, the faculty, the staff. It means a lot that you're in the schools and recognize what they do. The morale is better, I think, because of your leadership, and I think you're doing all the right things. And I very much value you and appreciate your dedication to your job, to this community, and a big thanks to Renee, because as I told Dr. Jackson just a little while ago, he's everywhere. He's at football games, he's at cross country at 6 a.m., and he's in the schools all day. And the thing I worry about is him being able to rest and relax like he deserves with that beautiful wife of his. So thank you, God bless you, and we are blessed to have you as our leader. Thank you.
Peggy?
As I said earlier, Rob Jackson is an authentic person. What you see at the board meeting or at the Buncombe County's council meetings or whatever is the same person that you're going to see in the classroom with the youngest of our children all the way up to high school. He is a person who accepts everyone and loves them in his own way, and that's felt, and as Kim said, the morale is just increasing because of that. So thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Amy?
Well, I have really appreciated getting to know you this past year, and I appreciate everything that you have done to really focus on the good things in public education, not only in Buncombe County schools, but the work that you do also to promote the good work that we're doing across the state of North Carolina with regards to public education. And I'm very thrilled that we have somebody who actually is from the western part of the state that gets to go up to Raleigh and have those face-to-face meetings with the leaders that are making decisions for us, and to have somebody like a leader like you. And I appreciate all the communication skills that you have. Thank you.
Rob, with 1T.
Oh, I was gonna go. I was saving mine for last.
You're
But
going to
since-
save yours for last?
It's the best. I don't know. I mean,
Mr. Elliott, you can go ahead.
okay, all right, fine. Well, yeah, I'll lighten it up. But I came up with an acronym for his name, Rob, because I share the same name, R-O-B. R is for running. He hit the ground running as soon as he showed up, following, in the footsteps of someone like Tony Baldwin, who was here for 13 years. Was a very positive leader, a lot of great change. We were all interested to see what Rob could do. And he's never stopped running, both literally and figuratively. If you follow him on Facebook or whatever, he's running somewhere every day. So thank you for that. And O is for outstanding. You're an outstanding, you have an outstanding focus on our students. Every child comes to our schools with their own unique personalities, with all their own unique needs, and you greet every single one with a smile. You love each one of those students, with everything that they bring with them to school. And that's what we need, is a very student-focused superintendent, so thank you. And B is, I feel like we're blessed to have you, I really do. You have brought a tremendous amount of energy and positivity to our school district, and you can feel it. I was trick-or-treating, the other night with my kids, and came across some teachers that live near each other in the neighborhood, and that's what I heard was, you know what? We're blessed to have him. He listened to us. That 100-day listening tour, I think, was what you called it, but you really did listen. It doesn't matter if I talk to a student or a parent or a teacher. That's the first thing they always say is, man, he really listened, because the decisions you've made since that time in your listening tour, they can see their comments reflected in your actions. So thank you for all that.
Amanda?
So depending on your age, 1 year can feel really short or it can feel really long. I feel like we are really blessed to have had you for the year that we have had so far. We've had 1 year of visits from schools to community centers, to games, to events, to band competitions, just anything that's going on. You're there front and center, and we appreciate that. We're taking debates on whether you have a body double or not. We're not really sure yet. We've had 1 year of listening, which Mr. Elliott spoke on a lot, but from someone that has been in the classroom, I think one big thing teachers and staff want to feel is heard, and so I appreciate you listening. 1 year of learning, from you learning us, to us learning you, to our kids learning in the classroom. We really appreciate that. 1 year of love. It is very evident. I know you said to us in our meeting, if it wasn't evident, you're doing something wrong, but it's incredibly evident that you love our community, you love our students, you love our schools, and you love us. That's very evident, so don't you stress about that. And most importantly, 1 year of exceptional leading. So we appreciate you and everything you've done.
Well, I'll have to echo all these statements, sir, but I want to let you know that I've mentioned to you before, I've been with Buncombe County Schools for a long, long time in different roles, and I really appreciate the fact that you're carrying on the positive leadership and the legacy that we've had for so many years in Buncombe County. We have so much to be proud of and thankful for, and I was really grateful to be part of the interview process to bring you here. And when we all joined together, there were 7 of us of like mind who said, yes, he's the man for this position at this time. And you've made that quite clear throughout your days here this last year, visiting all the classrooms. And we've attended happy events and galas and funerals, and everything in between, and you've been there with such heart and such love and dedication to our students. And I can speak as a mother and as a grandmother that we appreciate that, and as a mother to all my children who are out there teaching and principaling now that I taught in the classroom, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And Renee, I've got to include you in that too, because we know that behind every good, wonderful male leader, there's got to be a female somewhere who's cheering him along, and you do such a great job at that. We love you, and we're glad you came home.
Yeah, Dr. Jackson, we're really happy that you're here. You can breathe now, can't you? And Renee, we're very happy that you're here with him. I can't imagine what it's like when he runs in the house and turns around and runs right back out. He doesn't just run on a trail. He runs all the time. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you in Buncombe County Schools. It's difficult to come in and take over for somebody that's been here as long as Tony Baldwin had been, and you made that path smooth, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want to say something? Besides, thank you.
There's nothing more to say than thank you. And I just again want to say thank you to the Board of Education. Thank you for the opportunity that you gave me a year ago to serve this incredible school system. What's most important to me is to say thank you to our teachers who show up every single day in all of our classrooms, who give so deeply of themselves. What an honor it is, what a blessing it is to serve our teachers as they serve our most precious asset, our students. And so, board members, thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you for your leadership. And to our team, thank you for making it such a blessing to serve here.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jackson, members of the board. So for our next piece of good news, if we could have Dr. Johnston, Dr. Reed, and Mr. Huff come and help us gather up a few tokens of appreciation. And while they're doing that, if Dr. Jackson and Renee could make their way to the middle of the floor. It's picture time, guys.
Just to let you know, we had Renee come today because I don't think he could stand up by himself.
And these gifts represent both central services leadership as well as all of our districts.
I'm disappointed that's an orange and purple balloon.
Buncombe County colors.
All right, everyone. Big smiles. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. You guys can stay right there. Thank you, guys. And if the board, if y'all could come on up for a photo.
Yes, you are part of the board. Get up and go.
Just hop.
Come on.
You know, I'm just thinking of past pictures with my broken ankle.
Me hobbling. Item, I believe we're ready for the curriculum feature, which is the next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Jackson, and members of the board. It is my pleasure tonight to talk about how we are growing successful readers in Buncombe County schools and a little bit about our journey and how we're doing on that journey. As Dr. Jackson alluded to just a few moments ago, literacy is a key factor, not only throughout school and accessing all content areas, but certainly in life. People who struggle with reading are more likely to drop out of high school, end up in the criminal justice system, and to live in poverty. This is why we pour so much into our students at such an early age to develop strong literacy skills. In fact, there is a lot of research that shows third grade reading proficiency can be a predictor of both high school graduation and post-secondary success. Did you also know that our brains as humans are wired to speak, but most people do not naturally develop skills that help them actually read? They must be taught how to crack that alphabetic code to become skilled readers. And this image of the brain shows you just a little bit about how complex the interactions are in our brain when people are reading. And because of that and that complexity, I like to consider our teachers rocket scientists from kindergarten on, because it's really complex and it's amazing the work that they have to do to learn how to teach reading. I wanted to talk to you a little bit, too, about the history of legislation throughout North Carolina that has impacted reading instruction across the state. Way back in the year 2012, our state recognized just how important literacy is to our teaching and our preparation of students for their future. And so in the year 2012, to be enacted in 1314, the state came up with the Excellent Public Schools Act, but we know it a lot more familiarly as the Read to Achieve legislation. That was quite a few years ago. And the goal really the work didn't really tell us how to teach reading. It just said, by the end of third grade, we want all of our students to be reading at or above proficiency. Unfortunately, since the year 2013-14 through 18-19, you can see the proficiency trends both in Buncombe County schools and throughout the state of North Carolina did not reflect any real benefits from the legislation itself. You may have noticed in some information shared recently that the way we taught reading during that time period was based on an older model called the 3Qing instruction, where there was a lot of guesswork with students on how to figure out how to pronounce words. It was not necessarily based on research or evidence. And the outcomes showed that we were not instructing students necessarily on research and evidence. In the state of North Carolina, that pictogram shows you that around 6 out of every 10 students, third grade students in North Carolina, were proficient in reading. Conversely, you could look at that as 4 out of every 10 students in North Carolina were not proficiently reading by third grade. Underneath this data, there were also disproportionalities in that data. And so our students who did live in poverty, students of color, did not necessarily perform as well as their peers. So in Buncombe County, we were not okay with that data. We were still under the old Read to Achieve legislation, but we knew we needed to do something in Buncombe County schools to ensure not only improved outcomes in our reading, but also equitable reading outcomes. So we did some work and gathered a team of professionals in our system together and said, what's the formula? What is it that we could do to make a difference and get our students reading, more of our students reading proficiently by third grade? And we knew that they all needed access to high quality core instruction. And when you look at the model on the right side of this screen, you probably have heard of something called MTSS, or a multi-tiered system of support. That bottom layer that we in education like to call the differentiated core is what every single one of our students should have access to. Because when we talk about equitable student outcomes, we're talking about access to high quality instruction. And so number one, we know that that access has to be grounded in high expectations, the firm, solid belief that every single student that steps in Buncombe County schools can read and achieve at high levels. In addition to that, we also know that every student has to have access to high quality instructional materials, but not just any materials. They have to be aligned to something that's evidence-based and research-based, and it's something that we like to call the science of reading. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what that is in just a minute. We also know the key is having teachers who are highly qualified to teach the content that they teach. And of course, that last element there is that our teachers need and deserve continual support from both instructional coaches and administrators who are also supported in their own growth and understanding in reading instruction and how to be an instructional leader. All right, so what is that thing called the science of reading that I'm sure you've heard so much about? The science of reading is really a body of knowledge that's evidence-based that talks about the acquisition of language, both phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics and spelling, fluency, vocabulary, oral language, and comprehension that can be differentiated to meet the needs of every single student we serve. Yes, it sounds a little like rocket science, because it is. It was not a new body of knowledge. It's actually based on old research and evidence, but this knowledge came to the forefront of the work that we did as a district to say, what is it we can do different? So I've got two diagrams here. The one on the left is called Scarborough's rope. Scarborough's rope is based on two major components of how we learn to read. If you can look at the red part in the top left, it's all about language comprehension. Language comprehension has a lot of sub-skills underneath, some of those being vocabulary, language structures, background knowledge, several different things there. And then on the bottom, the other component is actual word recognition. And when we talk about that, that's really where we're talking about phonological or phonemic awareness, which is the sounds and the words that we hear, but also phonics. And sometimes we call that decoding, actually breaking that alphabetic code of a word. And then on the right-hand side, it takes that complicated rope that when you wind all of those strands together, the language comprehension and word recognition, it equals reading comprehension. And when we talk about end-of-grade reading testing, we're testing skilled reading or reading comprehension, which is really the marrying and the winding around of all of those sub-skills together to produce our competent and proficient readers. So on the right side where you see that circle, it boils down all those complex pieces of Scarborough's rope into 5 different elements of instruction that we base our instruction on in Buncombe County schools. And you can see, again, that's phonological awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. So a little bit back to the timeline of implementation. So if you'll remember, I showed you the data in 18 and 19, and it didn't look great. And so in the year 2018 to the present, our system really started working on curricular materials that align to the science of reading. And so we were able to get materials in that word recognition strand in every single one of our classrooms, K through 3rd grade in Buncombe County schools, the entire system. Because what was happening is, at that point, is that we had a lot of variability throughout our schools and through our classrooms of what materials our students were using and were exposed to. And so we tried to level that playing field and, again, provide equitable access to high-quality instructional materials. At the same time, we focused on something that we're still focused on as a district called high-impact strategies, a few of which are literacy-related, and that's vocabulary and writing, just to name a few. Now, the next year, in 1920, we entered something called a global pandemic. And in the midst of all of our efforts to address the science of reading and reading instruction, we found ourselves instructing students from home. And that definitely took a toll on the proficiency of reading of a lot of our youngest students. But the silver lining on that cloud, if we can find one, is that we actually received a lot of funding for COVID relief to address our academic issues that we found ourselves dealing with after the pandemic. And so as a district, we made a concerted effort to level the playing field with instructional materials in grades kindergarten through 6th grade in our entire system. And so I can proudly say that at this point, we have materials that align to the science of reading in every single one of our kindergarten through 6th grade classrooms throughout Buncombe County schools. And I couldn't be more proud of that. In fact, I could probably retire on that note. I've been told I can't do that yet. But it just makes me so happy to know that every single one of our students has access to high quality instruction. That makes me a little teary a little bit. And then so in the year 2021, we're still certainly recovering, but we made a concerted effort to work on adopting that curriculum. And then comes the year 21-22. We're still in recovery mode from the pandemic, but as a school system in the middle of pandemic recovery, our teachers in grades K through 6 implemented a brand new curriculum, and that is no easy task for any teacher at any time, but wow, in the middle of pandemic recovery, that's something to be proud of. Our teachers are amazing. At the same time, the little arrow to the right there shows that our state came along and they said, whoa, our reading outcomes aren't what they need to be, and whoa, we're dealing with a pandemic, what can we do? And so as a state, they updated the Excellent Public Schools Act, what we call that Read to Achieve legislation, and they included the science of reading. But I'm so proud that even before that legislation came along, we had the materials in our classrooms. What the state did certainly gave us a lot of requirements, which we very easily met as a district, but they did provide some training, and you've probably heard of it, called LETRS. And LETRS training is very intense training for all of our K through 5 teachers, our instructional coaches, our administrators. That includes AIG, ESL, and all of our EC teachers in those components that I talked to you about on Scarborough's rope. Last year, the focus of LETRS training for a full year was on that word recognition component of Scarborough's rope. This year, our teachers in grades K through 5 are on year 2 of LETRS training, and that focuses on the knowledge building piece of Scarborough's rope. Our teachers have just been amazing going through the training, not only sitting through it, doing the homework, working with each other in professional learning communities, and they've just given so much time and energy because they know that's what's right for our students. Throughout this process, and especially in the adoption of our core curriculum, our team came up with a literacy vision. And this literacy vision is not just about early grades, it's about kindergarten through 12th grade. And what is our vision for preparing our students for the future? And that's that every one of our students in Buncombe County schools will become a seeker of knowledge who engages in critical thinking by reading complex text and deepening their learning through writing, speaking, and listening. We, as a system, have had an instructional framework in place for quite a while, so I wanted to share that with you tonight. The image on the left is our framework, and in the very center, you can see student learning. And part of this framework is that we expect in every classroom, every day, K through 12 in our system, that students will move, read, write, think, speak, and listen. Every class, every lesson, every day. On the right-hand side, I wanted to pull out this particular image, which is all about how we meet the needs of our language learners, our multilingual learners. And you can see a lot of similarities between our framework for multilingual learners and the framework we use for every student, every day, in every class. Just a quick overview of the curricular materials that we have in our classrooms to address the science of reading. In grades kindergarten through 2nd, on the left, you see Hegarty curriculum, and that focuses on phonological awareness, which is all about the sounds that we hear. A lot of the phonemic awareness is about rhyming and syllables, first sounds and last sounds of words as a foundational component in learning to read. On the right-hand side, we use a curriculum called Foundations in grades K through 3. That's our phonics curriculum. It's all about cracking that alphabetic code, attaching sounds to letters, and also we are teaching spelling, believe it or not, through our Foundations curriculum. In order to get proficient in reading, we know that students need practice. So it's not just enough to teach phonics curriculum. Our students have to practice what they learn. And we have an amazing resource called Geodes that aligns to Foundations, and it gives students a chance to read really wonderful text that are exciting and interesting so they can practice their phonics skills. And the beauty of Geodes is that the themes in all of those books align with our core knowledge building curriculum, which is Wit and Wisdom. You may ask, what about our dual language students? About a year later, after we were able to adopt Wit and Wisdom, we found a brand new resource from Amplify called Caminos. And Caminos is a dual language curriculum for grades K through 5 that's fully aligned to the science of reading. So we were able to do that for all of our dual language classrooms in the system as well. So what are the benefits of a district-wide curriculum? Number one, we know and can guarantee that we have research and evidence-based curriculum in every single classroom in Buncombe County schools in grades K through 6. It establishes common routines for students and common language, so teachers aren't having to start over every single year a student moves to a new grade level or transitions to a new school. We have consistent instructional support across our schools because we're using the same curriculum. Our instructional coaches and leaders are prepared to support and teach that no matter which school they're working with. And then, of course, as we onboard new teachers and new administrators, we have a very systematic approach to that onboarding, and we can make sure our teachers have the training they need. And of course, number one is access to a high level of rigor and expectations for every student who attends Buncombe County schools. Our data is reflecting the changes that we have made. Our proficiency over time took a toll from the pandemic, but we are building back really strong. I want to point your attention to the 2 yellow columns. You can see it's grades kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And this is data from last school year. At the beginning of the year, I want to point out to you that our kindergarten students in Buncombe County schools, according to a skills-based assessment in literacy, came in at 19% proficient. 19% of our kindergarten students who entered school last year were proficient in reading and literacy skills. By the end of last year, 74% of our kindergarten students were proficient in reading. You can see a similar trend in 1st grade. Of course, we would expect proficiency at the beginning of the year to rise grade level to grade level. Our 1st graders grew from 43 to 71%. I'll go ahead and point out the pink column to you. It is our end of the year state proficiency. So in the state of North Carolina, that's the pink column. If you compare that to the yellow column just to the left of that, you can see as a district, we're at and above the state in every grade level in our literacy skills assessments in grades K through 3. The blue column on the right shows that from the end of the year of 2022 to end of the year 2023, we gained overall in proficiency. So we're making cumulative gains in literacy skills in those early grade levels. Now, I wanted to point out also, we do give the end of grade assessment, and as I mentioned earlier, end of grade assessments are based on reading comprehension. So it's the application of all of those skills together that when wound together in that rope, produce proficient readers. In the year 21-22, all of our grade levels met growth except for 5th grade. And at the end of last school year, all of our schools met or exceeded growth. The blue is exceeding growth. And in 5th grade, we still have some work to do. We know that 5th grade is a year of transition for many of our students who go from elementary to intermediate school. And so the focus of our work in literacy this year is very, very heavily on our 5th grade. And this is my last slide and my last chance to give a shout out to our teachers. Our teachers are the rock stars and the rocket scientists in the teaching of reading across our system. They have put in countless hours for professional development and each and every day with their students because they know how important literacy is for the success of our students.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. At this time, it's time for public comment, and our attorney will read a message.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's now time for public comment. As a reminder, speakers will be called in the order in which they signed up, and all speakers will have precisely 3 minutes to speak and must adhere to the guidelines outlined in board policy. There is a timer. When it turns yellow, you'll have approximately 30 seconds. We ask that you be respectful. Profane language, making threats, or revealing confidential student information, staff information is not allowed. We ask that you address the board as a whole, and note that while the board does take notes and is listening, the board does not respond directly to public comment. Following the normal monthly public comment period, the board will also hear public comments specifically related to the required board policies addressing the state's Parents' Bill of Rights statute. These policies are linked in the meeting agenda. If you go on your phone or your mobile device and go to the school board's website, you will be able to find these policies on the agenda. These comments must also adhere to the guidelines that I just referenced, and I will turn it over to Dr. Harris.
Thank you. So we'll start with public comment. We have 11 total public comments. Will Bill Robinson come down as our first commenter? I will give you a 30-second warning. When I put my hand up, you'll have 30 seconds left. And when you get to the mic, please say your name and which district you represent.
My name is Bill Robinson. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Here we are again. We had a big breakthrough at the last meeting when the board finally did something about the suicides of young girls in this county. And it was good to see that there's a suicide prevention program in place now. However, I guess it's been long overdue. I don't think it's enough. It's just barely enough to show some moderate concern in the lives of 7 young girls. But it did confirm that 7 young girls have committed suicide in this county, in this area, and Asheville since January of this year up until May. We have no idea how many other young girls lost their lives. We have no idea how many other young boys or attempted suicides there were, or self-harmed. This is not happening because of fat shaming. It's not happening because of traditional bullying that some of us or all of us may have gone through in grade school. This is happening for a whole different set of reasons. I think when I speak about the suicides, just from the smug and snarky looks on your faces, it's kind of not really registering. And I think it's because I'm using words instead of images. I'd like to pass around a picture here. Is it possible to pass this to the board? Just take a look at it and see if it registers at all. This is a picture of Kylie Wilhelm. She's the girl that I've been discussing for the last 7 months. She was 13 years old. She's a beautiful girl. She loved her soccer team. She loved President Trump. She loved all the things that 13-year-old girls love. And she wasn't being bullied regularly by a group of schoolyard bullies. She was being bullied by students that disagreed with her Christianity, students that disagreed with her heterosexual nature. She was being bullied by principals and teachers who didn't mind the fact that she was being bullied into suicide. She was a 13-year-old girl. There were both younger and older girls that committed suicide. Take a look at that picture and see if it means anything to you. Is there any conscience? I mean, this is absolutely unacceptable. And having a scenario where Jimmy has to tell his father 4 minutes later in order to call the authorities and then send somebody over to the student's house that makes a threat. This is an ideal situation scenario. This is not going to work. I hope it saves a few lives. We got to get down to the root issues here. And that's the kind of schools that you've created in this district. Oh, don't feel bad, though. It's happening all over the country. It's happening all over the country. And parents aren't just mad here. Parents are mad all over the country. Parents are universally in America.
Thank you, sir.
Our next public comment is, I believe, Courtney Blossman. And when you come to the mic, please say your name and which district you represent.
I'm Courtney Blossman, and I'm here to say thank you for all your time and efforts. I'm very encouraged about the daily instructional framework that you all are putting together for the lower elementary schools. Thank you, because these children really do need to read. Everybody needs to be able to read, and especially those children that have sort of dropped through the cracks and don't get as much help at home as some children do. I'm happy to see phonics and spelling is coming back, and the Caminos program sounds encouraging. So I have not kept up lately with you all about the state legislation and how the books are going to be taken out of the schools' libraries that do not need to be there. But so I'm going to defer a lot of my comments today to that. To talk to each of you separately, and later I'd like to talk to you one-on-one and see what's going to happen with the pornographic books and the gender ideology. I just have one comment. In many ways, we're stealing our children's childhood, and every day you let some teacher tell them that they are different than God made them, I think takes away a little bit more from them. So I really hope that you will go into the school libraries and look up these books that every caring person in this country is trying to get away from their children, and understand what is in the books and why they should be taken out. And I encourage you to do that by the end of this year, or why not sooner? If they're harmful books and not supposed to be there, why don't we just take them out sooner? Thanks. I think we have to be really careful about what the federal government is funneling in with their funds into our schools, and also the teachers' unions. And I know we're not supposed to have them in North Carolina, but we do. So find your conscience and find a way to take these books out of the schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next public comment is Talia Wilson. Please come to the mic and say your name and which district you represent.
I am Talia Wilson, a senior at Nesbitt Discovery Academy, and I am speaking to you as part of the Green New Deal for Schools campaign. This campaign works to transform our school system to face the climate crisis.
Will you speak into the microphone, please, or remove your mask, whichever one you want?
To face the climate crisis and adequately prepare students for a rapidly changing world. As part of the Green New Deal for Schools campaign, we are advocating for 5 things: pathways to green jobs, climate disaster plans, climate curriculum, free and healthy lunches, and safe and green buildings. We would like to applaud you for your past projects, including free lunches this school year and solar panel projects. These actions lessen the impacts of food insecurity, which is worsened by climate change, and help to offset our school emissions. We are urging you to do more. School infrastructure continues to contribute to our carbon footprint. Current solar energy production is beneficial, but additional renewable systems would offset our emissions even more. Buncombe County's commitment to solar power makes us feel optimistic about alignment with other Green New Deal for Schools goals. Healthy and locally sourced school lunches will reduce malnutrition and emissions from long transportation. More connections to green jobs will connect students with meaningful and good-paying occupations that combat the climate crisis. Climate disaster plans will help students stay safe and prepare schools for extreme weather. More extensive climate justice curriculum created by experts will prepare students with the knowledge to confront the climate crisis and come together with solutions across culture, race, and class. Lastly, progress to improve our infrastructure will make our schools cleaner running, more climate resilient, and ensure safer learning environments. I want to attend a school that reinforces the climate solutions we are taught by incorporating clean energy. A school that connects and prepares me for a job that will make a difference environmentally. A school where I'm not more concerned with the temperature in the classroom than what is being taught. Schools are core institutions in our community and should lead the way towards sustainability, stand in the face of the climate crisis, and prepare students for the future. Ensuring that students are safe, educated, and prepared will equip a new generation of students to tackle the climate crisis with a new momentum. Help us transform Buncombe County schools to become prepared and resilient against the climate crisis. We call on you to support and adopt the Green New Deal for Schools campaign so every student in Buncombe County can attend safe, climate-prepared schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public comments relate to the Parents' Bill of Rights, and the first person is Kristen Keeler. And please say your name when you come to the mic and which district you live in.
My name is Kristen Kelleher. I live in the Irwin District, and I work in the Reynolds District. Dr. Jackson and school board members, I'm a school counselor with Buncombe County Schools and a parent of a BCS student, as well as a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I'm also a member of the county's suicide prevention and threat assessment leadership team and a lead on one of our crisis response teams. I'm deeply concerned about the impact on student mental health on implementing SB 49. We are currently in a mental health crisis in this country. Suicide has surpassed homicide and is now the second leading cause of death for teenagers. We have seen firsthand this in our county. All of the evidence and research shows that a comprehensive prevention strategy is the most effective way to decrease suicides. According to the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, an important part of comprehensive approach is identifying those students at risk, responding effectively to those in crisis, and increasing the help seeking. Acquiring permission prior to conducting a suicide and threat assessment will be a barrier. The North Carolina General Assembly, in its newly passed budget, included an exemption in emergency care. It states, it is within the scope of duty of teachers or any other public school employees to give emergency health care when reasonably apparent circumstances indicate that any delay would seriously worsen the physical condition or endanger the life of the pupil. If the policy written by this board interprets the law to exclude suicide assessments and threat assessments from this exemption, this will create barriers to evidence-based interventions to support students and keep them alive. It is already in our county's protocol to inform a guardian when we speak to a student about suicide or conduct a suicide assessment. We are already working with parents and collaborating to support students. It is important, it is a part of my job description and my ethical standards to advocate for anti-bias, equitable policies and procedures, and provide effective, evidence-based, culturally responsive interventions to all students. So I am here today doing exactly that, and it's not for the checkbox of my distinguished on my evaluation. It is so I know that all of my students and all the students in Buncombe County will be given all the supports they need. I am asking you to write a policy that expands the definition of emergency healthcare to include suicide and threat assessments as part of our responsive services to students. This will ensure that all students are able to receive prompt, evidence-based support during times of crisis. Not all of our parents are available on an emergency basis, and requiring permission before we conduct our assessments will put a population of students at a disadvantage. All of our students deserve the same access to suicide prevention. Interpreting the law to include suicide and threat assessments will guarantee this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public comment is Amber King.
Hello, my name is Amber King. I'm a social worker in Buncombe County, and I work with the Campaign for Southern Equality. SB 49 is called a Parents' Bill of Rights, but about 70% of this is already existing law, and it's just providing a smokescreen for its anti-LGBTQ provisions. On October 6th, we sent a legal memo to the General Counsel of the Department of Public Instruction detailing how school policies and practices put into place to comply with SB 49 violate Title IX. A few excerpts from that legal analysis. Provisions of SB 49 imperil the well-being and lives of LGBTQ students. In doing so, they foster a hostile educational environment in violation of Title IX. Schools violating Title IX not only risk litigation challenging their illegal conduct, but also losing their federal educational funding. Any educator's willful violation of a student's civil rights is an express breach of the standards of professional conduct, and such a finding provides a basis for revoking an individual educator's teaching license. The federal Constitution establishes the supremacy of federal laws over state laws with contrary mandates, and that means Title IX supersedes SB 49. Does a hostile environment exist? We've already seen it here tonight, and here's what we've been hearing from students and families. When there's government surveillance and reporting of every book that a student checks out of the library, that's a hostile environment. When every adult in the room is required to police every student to make sure they're using the name and pronouns on their birth certificate, that's a hostile environment. When only stories about straight and cisgender families can be read in a kindergarten class, and the child with 2 moms or 2 dads learns that books about their families have been banned, that's a hostile environment. When teachers all the way through high school are already stripping any mention of LGBTQ people or issues from the curriculum because they're scared of being targeted by hate groups, that is a hostile environment. We've become so accustomed to hostility and violence towards LGBTQ people, particularly transgender and non-binary people, that it has come to seem normal. But it is not normal, it is not ethical, and it is against the law. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Chase Harless.
Cool. Good evening. My name is Dr. Chase Harless. I am a social worker and a public health official and the Deputy Director of the Research and Policy Center with the Campaign for Southern Equality. As a social worker and a public health official, I believe that evidence and data should guide our policies, and the evidence and data suggests that SB 49 will have a harmful impact on LGBTQ students in Buncombe County and across the state. Prior to SB 49, LGBTQ students have faced numerous challenges and hardships within the school. Multiple research studies have shown that overwhelmingly majority of LGBTQ students have experienced discrimination in school due to their identity, often feeling unsafe, isolated, and depressed. These experiences and discriminations are even more pronounced in the South, where a higher number of LGBTQ students have reported experiencing physical and emotional violence, especially when compared to their non-LGBTQ student counterparts. Unfortunately, LGBTQ students in the South often don't find respite when they're at home after school. Research shows that many LGBTQ students say they don't have their identity affirmed while in their homes. This is why there's a higher rate of LGBTQ homeless youth that make up a sizable portion of the homeless population here in the nation. These harmful experiences at school and in the home have real lasting impacts on LGBTQ students. Higher rates of mental health disparities, worse physical health outcomes, and much higher rates of suicide ideation and behaviors. These rates are even worse for LGBTQ students in North Carolina when compared to other southern states. LGBTQ students in North Carolina are very aware that the harmful impact these policies can have. They are even more angry, they're even more stressed, and they're even more nervous due to these proposed policies and what could happen. However, we can do something about these rates. Eliminating stress for LGBTQ students would significantly reduce the rates of suicide among LGBTQ youth. Research shows that LGBTQ youth are 40% less likely to attempt suicide if they have just one supportive adult in their world, just one supportive adult. Additionally, research shows that using the correct name and pronoun for LGBTQ students is a significant reduce in suicide risk and ideation as well. We can have a real positive impact on the health outcomes for LGBTQ students in North Carolina. It is clear that SB 49 will help foster an environment that continues these harmful and discriminatory experiences of LGBTQ students in Buncombe County and across the state. LGBTQ students' identities will be further invalidated every day to the protocols in this policy. This means schools cannot comply with Title IX while following these portions of SB 49 that gratuitously harm LGBTQ students. The choice between Title IX and SB 49 is no choice at all. Schools must follow Title IX. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our next public comment is Craig White.
Good evening. I'm Craig White, the Supportive Schools Director for the Campaign for Southern Equality, and I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. As my colleagues have said, 1 month ago, we sent a memo to the Department of Public Instruction. A copy of that is before you. DPI has responded that that allegation must be adjudicated by the Office of Civil Rights at the United States Department of Education. We are now in the process of filing that federal civil rights complaint. We believe that this situation is best addressed at the state and federal level. We don't see any reason why it serves Buncombe County to rush our schools into the culture wars at this time. And with all due respect, I do not believe you have finished your homework. You have not addressed the Title IX concerns about a hostile educational environment that we shared with the policy committee over a month ago. You have not addressed the issue that your proposed policies may require educators, counselors, teachers, social workers, nurses, and librarians to violate their professional codes of ethics. You have not considered the ways in which your proposed policies will violate existing state laws, such as the statute which requires schools to be free from bullying and harassment, defined by law to include any acts of bias motivated by gender identity or sexual orientation. You have not addressed the over-compliance that is already happening in Buncombe County schools, such as staff who are outing students, staff who are refusing to respect students' names and pronouns, teachers who are censoring the curriculum far beyond what the law requires. Honestly, you have not even complied with SB 49 itself, which requires you to develop these policies in consultation with parents, teachers, administrators, and community partners. We are asking you to slow things down. We invite you to talk to other school boards. Chapel Hill and Durham are having a similar meeting tonight. Asheville City has a work session next week. Union County, which also rushed into compliance, is already facing multiple Title IX complaints at both the district and the federal level. And it's possible that this is not your homework to finish after all. You have the right to ask the State Board of Education for a declaratory judgment on how you are supposed to comply with SB 49 without violating these other state and federal laws. Please focus on keeping all of our students safe and let Raleigh and Washington fight this one out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public comment is John Hinson.
Good evening. I'm John Hinson, and I'm from the Robertson District. This is the first board meeting I've ever been to. I've got several young kids, and what I'm realizing tonight is, you know, I guess people typically bring like a prepared speech and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to make two asks from you folks that I hope that you guys will take serious. But first, I just want to say thanks. I don't know what, like, as individuals made you take up your post, but it had to be something pretty significant to subject yourself to, you know, these type of events. So thank you guys. God bless you. I hope all the information that you take from tonight, think about, pray about, and come to a logical conclusion, right, with reason. But my two asks is that we do need to reevaluate our threat assessment protocols. I think that is in line with what a lot of folks here tonight are saying, is the threat assessment protocols and policies need to be reevaluated, and there needs to be evidence-based policies with a measurable outcome for threat assessments. So if we have a kid, we want to be able to make sure that they're safe. And I think everyone here tonight can probably agree that all of us really want a safe and effective education for our children. That's why we're all here. And so I think threat assessment evaluation is good. And I also want you all to think about how many CPI certified folks we have in our schools, specifically in the elementary schools, where I have two parents who have retired teachers in Buncombe County. Both, like most retired teachers, have gone back to work. I have siblings who are teachers. I myself have a bachelor's in education, so I understand the type of people who are teaching in public schools. They're like the best of us, and I get that. I think the thing that scares me the most is the lack of folks who can step in and physically prevent our children from being hurt. And I want you guys to think, I want you to dedicate some real time thinking about how many CPI certified educators need to be in each school, specifically elementary schools, so that if there is a physical threat in the classroom, that it can be handled without folks having to worry about getting fired. So my ask is you guys evaluate that in the interest of not only our kids, but in the interest of the teachers and the administrators. I think we're all better off having a sober look at CPI certified folks. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Our next public comment is Lauren Robertson. Please say your name and which district you live in.
I'm Lauren Robertson, and my wife and I have 4 kids in the Reynolds district. I want to share a little about my family with you. We're a blended family, like a lesbian Brady Bunch. We live on a farm with animals and gardens and usually a messy house. When the kids get off the bus, we do homework, go to taekwondo, piano lessons, and scouts. On the weekends, we go to band concerts, birthday parties, and the kids play football in the yard. We live on a gravel road with a few neighbors that have been on that land most of their lives. We sit on different sides of the political aisle than our neighbors, but we can all share a seat at the same table. I think they'd be the first ones standing up for us if anything happened. We're a happy, lucky family. There's a kid's book that we used to check out from the library. It's called A Family is a Family is a Family. It's a sweet, kind book that shows that families can look a lot of different ways. Now, because of SB 49, this book might not be allowed in school. And the singular reason is that it shows a picture of a family like mine. My family that is really just like yours. SB 49 is discrimination. It's not a parent's Bill of Rights because I'm a parent and it takes my rights away. To the small group of people out there spreading fear, representation of a family and humans that actually exist legally in your community is not indoctrination. LGBTQ folks like me are everywhere, and we always have been. You want to hear about the gay agenda? My gay agenda is building a deck over the weekend like a good lesbian. To our LGBTQ teachers, we have your backs. Please keep showing up. To our queer youth, once you get past this small group of people making life difficult, there is so much joy, love, and peace. And I promise, there are more people rooting for you than you will ever know. Be yourself. Spread love and kindness in the face of adversity. To the rest of you, to our allies, we are grateful. You are the friends who watch out for us. You are teachers and administrators who support our kids without discrimination. You are Christians who really do love your neighbors. We are grateful and we notice. We notice. Please help us protect every student you have by passing a resolution to oppose any part of SB 49 that reduces student safety or creates.
Thank you.
Our next public comment is Teresa Reinhardt, I believe. Please say your name and which district you live in when you come to the mic.
I'm Teresa Reinhardt, and I live in the Irwin district. I'm just going to give you, for instance, the other night, our kids are slipping through with not learning to read, reason, follow directions, because I was in an event that I was volunteering at. And this girl, she was the oldest one there. I don't know if she finished school or she's still in school. And I asked her, I said, you need to sign this release. So if somebody gets hurt, I said, since you're the responsible adult, I need your name, your phone number, how many is with you, and how much you paid for this event. She could not tell me what 3 times 8 was. She did not follow directions. She doesn't know how. And that's sad because these kids are our future. And I know not all kids are that way. But I mean, I had a mother that made sure I graduated. And some families don't do that, and that's sad. And these kids are the one that's suffering. And we need to do something more with these kids that their parents just let them go. Because my aunt did. She had 4 boys and she didn't care. And I mean, these kids are our future, people. We have got to do something. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Our next public comment is Sarah Wilcox. Please say your name when you get to the mic and which district you live in.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Wilcox. I'm from the Reynolds District. As we enter a month and a season of gratitude, I offer my thanks to each one of you as members of the board and our superintendent and other staff for the work you do and the intentions that you have to care for all of our school children in Buncombe County. I'm not sure what one does when there are people in power who demand their rights without consideration or care for how they harm their neighbors, and then they do so in the name of freedom, especially when claiming that freedom seems to be about limiting the freedom of others to live authentically and free themselves. The lack of care for the needs of all of God's beloved children by people in power and by some gathered here in this room is heartbreaking to this pastor. The Parents' Bill of Rights intends to enumerate the rights of parents to direct their kids' education, something that should happen over dinner tables, in parent-teacher conferences, and with active involvement in the school. Some of the Parents' Bill of Rights is deeply offensive, though, as it suggests parents are the experts of all things and never a danger to their kids. It denies the reality that students often need protection from their parents for a variety of reasons. Parents aren't even experts on their own kids. Our kids often have a lot going on that they can't or they won't share with us. So the greatest allies we have in the care of our children is the adults in other places. In school, on sports team, in youth groups, at taekwondo or coding camp, you are their allies. So tonight I call on you to speak with a common voice through a resolution that names your opposition to parts of the law given by this state that create conflict and potential harm to our students. Please speak with a common voice to the concern with the lack of exceptions for student safety regarding parent notifications and opt-in surveys that include suicide assessments. Speak to the conflicts with professional ethics standards for counselors and social workers and to the conflicts with Title IX. As a pastor, I care for countless adults harmed by their parents and the narrowed scope of learning they were subject to, and the false good news they were sold, only to go to college, become therapists, teachers, nurses, and doctors, and realize that they had been denied information vital to participating in the world as good neighbors. They ultimately found that they were led to fail to follow the 2 commandments of Christ, to love God and to love their neighbors as themselves. Our young people, they learn about the diversity of our world, the true history of our nation, and the social emotional skills needed to navigate the truth all around us in schools. That parents want to harm their kids by some narrowed scope of learning is their right, but should the public school system be diminished by their refusals to see and learn and honor the experiences beyond them? I can't help but think that some parents are creating diminished selves that justified narrowed love of neighbor. And asking the public system.
Concludes public comment this evening.
Dr. Harris. Next item on the agenda is the action agenda. First item on the action agenda is the interim continuation budget. Are there questions from board members concerning this item?
Yes,
Okay,
Madam Chair.
Mr. Elliott. Let's wait just a second.
Yeah, that'd be great. If I may make one positive comment about the literacy presentation.
I'll let you make a positive
Thank you.
comment.
You mentioned letters training, and I really wanted to acknowledge all the teachers out there. You know, it's evident how hard you've had to work and are still working on that training. And to all the administrators that are supporting those teachers with, you know, scheduling things to give them time to study and practice and learn what they need to learn during the school day. It's a huge, huge lift, and it's easy to glance over that in a presentation with just the acronym posted up there. But thank you to all our teachers for all that effort. I know I've heard from so many how challenging it is, but how much they believe that it will benefit our students. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Indeed.
For the budget, Ms. Thorpe, thank you for the narrative that you provided
You're welcome.
About this continuation budget. It would really help me, I think, and a lot of members of the public, if you could maybe help summarize sort of the process, right? Because we approved a budget request to go to the commissioners for local supplement. They deliberated, they came back with an approved budget that set forth supplement increase. And then the General Assembly came with their budget a couple months late. And I know y'all have been working hard to implement all of those pay adjustments for our staff, which are very important. So there's a lot of questions about, you know, the magnitude of those parts of the raises, how they work together, and like when they're going to be rolled out. I noticed in your narrative, in one of the paragraphs, I think you said that, you know, you acknowledged that phase 2 and phase 3 of the salary study for classified employees, you know, was voted on by the commission to fund that. But I think that we're pushing that to vote on in December, and that's one of the reasons for the continuation. Is that correct or not?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
Let me give you a timeline real quick to clarify things so that you all are on the same page as what the continuation budget does and why we had to do one more month of continuation. So the state budget was actually became law on October the 2nd, and it always takes around a month for DPI to get the state allotments to us. So we did not have the state allotments in time to actually do a adoption for the budget tonight. So we are pushing the adoption for the budget to December. However, let's talk about all the raises. Okay. So the raises, the first thing that happened was the county commissioners gave us a small portion to start with in June, and they wanted to wait until the state budget came through. And once the state budget was approved, they wanted to meet again and finalize and make an amendment to their budget, which then I'm going to talk about the details of that, what all that encompasses. So the county commissioners, I'd first like to thank them. They did an amazing job with the support of our salary study, and that was for the classified staff. So for all the classified staff, they fully implemented all of the salary study, which was phases 2 and 3 of this year. They'd done phase 1 last year. So we are finished. All of those salary schedules are posted on the finance website under standard pay scales under salary. So those are there. Those are all in the October checks that they received on October 31st for all classified. They've already received those. Salaries are posted. With that being said, the other portion that the county commissioners wanted to do, and they did a very nice job, is for certified staff, they gave a 2% increase on the certified local supplement based on the range of years for the state services that are on your license. So the 2% for the state license for certified staff. So certified was the 2% to local supplement. Classified received phase 2 and 3 of the salary study. So remember that the salary study got rid of the compressions. Once we got to phase 3, all the compressions were removed from our classified pay scales. So we took the Phase 3 that our board approved before the salary study started. We had gone through all of that, and we brought that to the county commissioners and the board, and they approved it 2 seasons ago. So those were the ones that got us to the final decompression. So we took those with the state raise. The state raise, let's talk about that. The state raise was a 4% increase for classified staff, for principals, and for central office. So the Phase 3 plus the 4% is what is built into the classified salary schedules that you see now out on our website. It's got all of that in there. Okay, it was a very, very nice increase, and it helped get everybody out of those compressions where it was 0 to 15 years with no increase, and then there was a lot of compressions across the pay grades. So those are all implemented. Then also for the certified, the teachers received between 2% and 7.7%, depending on where they fall in the state pay scales based on years of on their license. Then they get the 2% increase on their local supplement. So everybody, every category received raises, very nice, substantial raises. Those were implemented all, classified and certified, on the October 31st check. The retro pay is effective back to July 1. We had to get the 12-month employees the retro pay on their October checks to meet that 90-day window that is required by our retirement system, which is called Orbit. Those were also on the October check. And one more final thing that had to be on the October check by law was the principal bonus. We had 44% of our principals meet or exceed with the 5, 10, 15, 20, and 50% growth across the state, receive those bonuses. Those were also included on those that were eligible on their check.
Okay.
Now, there's another piece that we still have to do on the November check. There's some more retro for the 10 and 11 month, and a small portion for a small section that we lack that will be added in on those for November. But all raises are fully implemented.
Okay.
Now, what I will bring to you in December.
I just want to know, Mr. Elliott, can you repeat that for us?
No, I mean, not at all. And before you say your last piece, I acknowledge it fully how complicated all this is. I thanked you before. I'll thank you again. Tremendous work on just weeding through all the delays on the budget and everything, all weaving these pieces together. You have a remarkable team, so thank you.
Thank you. We're still weeding through everything with the state allotments that came, and then we do not have all the federal allotments. So we are working as best we can to come to you in December with the state for you to adopt our 23-24 budget.
Okay.
As close as we can get it to accurate numbers, as we will be bringing to you.
Okay, now I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I have a question. So just to clarify, because I've been asked this question this week. So the non-certified or classified, whichever way you want to say it, right?
That's
It's
the same category.
Thing, okay?
Yeah, make sure that's.
So they get their increase, the Phase 2 and Phase 3 on their base salary, right? But they are not getting the 2% increase on the supplement.
That is correct. The county commissioners wanted to make sure that they did something for both groups.
Okay.
They were very adamant that they were going to fully fund Phase 2 and 3 of the classified, and then they were going to give the certified the 2%.
Okay. That just needs to be clarified because at the school level, people did not understand that. Okay. Because I'm getting questions from the classified or non-certified folks about that. So some clarification on that would be helpful. The other thing, what did you say about there was a group of employees in central office. Will you repeat what you said
Yes.
on that?
Okay, so principals, central office staff, and the classified received 4% increase from the state.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I got that. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Thorpe, I want to thank you and your staff. Just listening to all that makes my head swim. And I'm sure that your staff has been swimming in numbers. However efficiently they have been doing it, they have been challenged. And I want to personally thank you.
I appreciate that, and I want to thank my finance team because they have been awesome. We have spent many hours, dedicated time, so we appreciate that, trying to make sure that everything is accurate we're all human, but trying to make everything as accurate as we possibly can that rolled out on the October 31st checks.
And I want to recognize Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to echo the comments that we've heard. I can share with you that since the school year started, our finance staff has been here late into the evening and late into the night, almost on a daily basis. They have worked on weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays. That's our payroll team, Ms. Thorpe herself. If you can imagine, including our part-time employees, bus drivers, et cetera, we have almost 5,000 employees. Each of those employees have a unique payroll situation that became even more unique because of the decisions at the state level and the local level based on their years of experience, the job category they were in. Some job categories received bonuses, some job categories did not. And so what that meant for the finance team is they literally had to go individual by individual to make sure that all of that pay was correct. And to do that work, to turn around all of that pay within a month of the state budget finally being approved is extraordinary. There are several school systems that haven't been able to do that in smaller school systems, and so we are quite blessed by our finance team. Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me to say thank you to Ms. Thorpe and her team as well. I very much appreciate what you do for our employees and our team.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you
I
all.
have one more question. Bus drivers, there was an additional amount approved for bus drivers, right? Can you
Yes, let
explain
me-
how that'll work?
Let me explain how that's going to work.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll be bringing a resolution to you in December for this. It's very similar to the PRC 071 teacher supplement that's in there as well. You did that resolution last year, so they give us across the state, I'm gonna give you a number, it's like 4.7 million
Okay.
across the whole state with the 115 LEAs and the 300 charter schools that are public charter schools. They're eligible for this. So we don't know our number yet of how much we're going to get, that we're waiting on that allotment. And once we do, we're going to bring a resolution to you that we're going to make it equitable like we did with the teacher supplement and pay it in May on one time because it's that supplement we cannot supplant, similar to the PRC 071, and that way you'll know the exact amount that each bus driver will be receiving in addition to the tremendous increase that they saw with Phase 3.
Okay. Just wanted to
Yes,
clarify
that's a
that
very good
because
question. I want to
we-
make sure we're
we
all
definitely need bus drivers.
Yeah, I
Mr.
wanna make sure
Stowe,
we're
right?
transparent with
Did
that.
not see Mr. Stowe somewhere. Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you very
that's a
much for
good
that
thing.
question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda. Okay, I need a motion to approve the continuation of budget.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The approval of the Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College Memorandum of Understanding. Are there questions from board members concerning this MOU? No. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
I would just like to represent the Board of Trustees of AB Tech and thank everyone who's had a part in this. It's a humongous, detailed kind of program, but it benefits our students in so many ways. So thank everyone who's involved.
Sure, it's a monumental task to get those things together, but we appreciate that, and we appreciate the cooperation with AB Tech. I had a motion and a second. Could I get a vote of approval, please?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the announcements, information agenda? Consent agenda. Oh, okay. Turned the page too quick. On the consent agenda, I have minutes of October 5, 2023, regular meeting open session, the personnel report, Reynolds High School request for athletic capital outlay funds, North Buncombe High School request for use of capital outlay funds, advisory council members request to change. Do I read these? No, we changed the policies.
Just a 6220.
Okay, policy 6220, operation of student nutritional services. And then on the, I guess it, so I've made that announcement. We do? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
if I could speak in favor of that motion.
Sure.
I want to note and thank Judy earlier for the request to move these policies from second reading until for another 30 days. And just communicate to those, in the community, we are very much listening to your voices right now as we work through these policies related to state law, the Parents' Bill of Rights. We are working through them as compassionately as possible. We're listening to as many voices as we can. There is a public comment period that Madam Chair has set up for taking public comment via email. There are instructions in the news release to do that. That will stay open for, I guess, some time until these policies are wrapped up. But we do very much appreciate all the input from parents and students and administrators and the public. It is very helpful. And I do just want to recognize one more time, it is incumbent upon us as elected officials. We do take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and state law as well. This law is complicated. It does create some friction that we are trying to navigate, as all school districts are. And in that policy work, we are going to continue our primary focus of maintaining a safe, healthy learning environment that respects the dignity of each and every child, respects the professionalism of our staff, respects parents, and respects the needs of our school community, all with the goal of helping every student that comes to our schools reach their full potential as they graduate. So I just want to say again, I appreciate the support from the staff and the community in helping us navigate this, because it will take us working together to navigate this in that way. With that, I think we got a second.
Thank you. That was my second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the announcements of future meetings. Board of Education members will participate in the North Carolina School Boards Association Annual Conference, November 13th through 15th at the Corey Center in Greensboro. Our next board meeting will be December 7th of 2023. The work session and updates and closed session will begin at 4. I've skipped the information agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, he's not letting me get out of here, so I have to read this to you. I apologize. In the information agenda, policies for first reading of Policy 1310, 4002, parental involvement, Policy 2400, board policies, Policy 3540, comprehensive health education, Policy 7650, employee travel and other expense reimbursement, Policy 7800 and 1610, professional and staff development, Policy 7810, evaluation of licensed employees, and Policy 7815, evaluation of non-licensed employees. Now then,
May I make an announcement before you go?
Mr. Shatley is going to keep us here a moment longer.
I apologize, Madam Chair. I forgot to mention during the public comment period, I wanted to follow up with what Mr. Elliott said about the email comment. Parents may email their comments on the Parent Bill of Rights policies to the following address that will be shared with the Board of Education. It's communications@bcsemail.org. communications@bcsemail.org. Thank you.
All right, that being said, our next meeting will begin at, well, I don't know, I think we changed that, didn't we?
2 o'clock.
Meeting. I imagine it'll be in the Jaeger Room to continue discussions on issues. And then we will have closed session at 4:30 and open session beginning at 5:30, all here at 175 Bingham Road. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. I thought we moved on.